Nice job. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, thanks everybody. So Mike Jaco here with Vic Saluja. We work on the FinOps team at Mastercard, and we are going to take a few minutes to talk about what we're doing in sustainability. But before we do that, we wanted to talk about Mastercard. We're excited to be here. Last year, we started our FinOps journey in April, and so we came to FinOps X in June. Vic has been here many times, before, but it was my first time, coming here, and so I got a lot out of all the sessions and a lot to bring back to Mastercard, and we spent the last year working on things, and we're excited to be here to share some of the learnings that we've had through that. So we want to start to talk about a little bit about Mastercard and what Mastercard is and what it isn't. So Mastercard is not a bank. We do not set interest rates. We do not issue credit cards. We are a technology company in the global payments industry. With that, we operate our technology across multiple rails. So when you think about that, what does that mean? Debit and credit might be what you initially think about when it comes to credit cards, or to Mastercard and payments. But we operate across a wide amount of rails. So when you look at this picture here, you see, you can make payments, from your phone, from your computer. You've been able to do that for a while. You can make payments from your fridge now, your TV, your gaming system. You can make payments while you're flying in an airplane. You make payments while you're crossing geographical borders, countries, currencies, everything. And you're able to make payments that credit card is supposed to work. So we operate across all of those rails. One of the things that we do is we really work to connect and power the digital economy. And so when you think about that, Mastercard and the payments industry is national critical infrastructure in countries now. And so the importance of it and everything, the regulation, is going to cause us to go into more countries. And so we are going into more countries, operating on soil, storing data on soil, whatever that is, and we're going to be required to do more and more of that. And so what we're doing at Mastercard, we've been doing TBM at Mastercard for a little while, focusing on our on-prem infrastructure. We just started FinOps last year, as we said, obviously focusing on our public cloud. We are doing those two, together, and we worked on converging those together from the very beginning. And so when we started our FinOps journey, we aligned everything that we were doing with what we were doing in TBM and our company taxonomy with the end goal that ultimately everything's going to come together at the end. As sustainability, has picked up, we worked on developing an on-prem carbon model. And we've implemented that at Mastercard, and then, once that happened, they asked for, well, what about our public cloud? Where is that at? And so we started kind of looking at that and realized the data just, kind of really just isn't there for what we need. And so if we really want to get to that single pane of glass across TBM and FinOps, really get that total cost of ownership, across whether it's on-prem, whether it's cloud, whatever that is, we needed better data. And so what we also want to do is look at bringing carbon, emissions data right next to the cost data and putting them side by side. And you can see that, here, you get a lot of benefits from TBM, a lot of benefits from FinOps. Putting those together, you get incremental benefits. Adding sustainability in there is going to benefit both of those as well. And so, as I said, we've been focusing on our Scope 1 and 2 emissions, at Mastercard the last couple of years. And now we're focusing on our Scope 3, CSPs being a big portion of our Scope 3 emissions. So Mastercard has been doing sustainability for a while. We have a 2016 baseline, and we've been tracking, towards that. And we have some short-term goals, 2025. You can see some of those here and how we're tracking to them. We're actually tracking to them pretty well. And then we're part of the 2040 net zero goal as well. Challenge with this is so we're on target to hit our 2025 targets. Where has those savings come from? Well, you can see here that very little of it has come from technology. And so as we're exhausting a lot of our non-technology sustainability efforts, the remaining opportunity lies in technology, at least a large portion of that. So that's where the opportunity is going to go. And you combine that with what we're seeing in terms of our usage. So we're seeing our on-premise data center electricity usage, our public cloud spend go up by over 30%, year over year. And so if we're not careful, those are going to significantly derail our goals and where the opportunity kind of lies still. And so how is Mastercard going to integrate technology strategy with sustainability objectives to drive mutual success? And Vic's going to walk us through a little bit of details on what we did here.
All right. Hi, folks. So like Mike mentioned, right, that we are growing. We are growing leaps and bounds both on-prem and on cloud. So how do we get, with that growth, right, we want to make sure we're not just cost efficient, we also have sustainability efficiency with that growth. And to have that, we need to make sure that we have got the right data, right? Data is the key for everything, for making cost decisions, for sustainability decisions, et cetera. So what we'll be doing basically is we are trying to align our on-prem methodology that we have with the cloud. So said that, right, these are the things that we are going to be focusing we are going to focus on from the cloud sustainability goals perspective. The basic theme that we are looking for here is how do we baseline our data? How do we baseline our cloud data? How do we make sure that particular data is sustainable in addition to integrated with our tools that we're currently utilizing at Mastercard? Mike alluded to, like, we want to make sure everything is single pane of glass, right? So the data that we have to get for cloud, it has to be also in the same format that you're looking for on-prem. We also want to make sure the data is reliable. So data confidence, data scoring also have a great play in our goals. And of course, the last thing is how do we utilize the data globally? Mastercard is a global company, right? So we want to make sure that when the vendors that we are sourcing our cloud data with, we are able to get that and it is efficient across the globe, right? So region plays in the role in there also. And lastly, but not the least is, as you know, all the sustainability regulations are coming into play. They are coming into play faster in Europe compared to US. But so we have to have a least common denominator to get our data right. All right. So what do we do with it, right? So the goal is that how do we source our data sets for sustainability for cloud? So the thing that we have to focus on is, like I mentioned to you, it has to be right data. It has to be, we make sure the data is sourced from the right vendors, right frameworks that we use for sustainability. So what we are relying on is everybody does that. They're using a framework with greenhouse gas protocol, right? That's an industry standard emission framework for your data. So you want to make sure that the data adheres to that GHG protocols. We want to make sure the data is more in real time, right? So we don't want to go back to like 2016 or 2015 and get the data. So it has to be in real time. We want to ensure, like I mentioned about regionality, that it has to be, any region we go to, we are able to source the data within that region using those frameworks. The other things are from clarity perspective, right? From how you're calculating your emissions. That's also a key. And lastly, your quality of data. What we're looking for Mastercard, if you want to align to our on-prem framework, we have to ensure that we get the data at the granularity that we look for. And at our company, the granularity basically is based on products and programs. So it has, for a single pane of glass, single tools, we have to ensure that the data has to apples, and we'll be able to get the same clarity, data quality that we're looking for. So based on all these scoring, based on the confidence, et cetera, right, we had an independent third party work with us to be able to measure the data. And what we did is, based on we looked at the different third parties to look at the data. We looked at open source capabilities also, like cloud carbon footprint. And we scored them based on the criteria for scope coverage, freshness, et cetera. And the recommendations that we came up with is the vendor that we're looking for, this particular effort that will help us to get the data that we need is GreenPixie. So they scored different vendors, different multiple vendors, and that's the scoring that we had. Again, this is based on a 3-month effort that we did with this particular vendor to get us at least look into what the baseline at Mastercard is. All right. So here is the key, right? Again, this slide is an eye chart. Sourcing the data is not easy, okay? You're looking at, from Mastercard perspective, you're looking at, in a 3-month period, 1 billion rows of data that has to be basically enriched with the carbon data. So you have to look at different inputs. Today, you look at different vendors. They give you a cost and usage file, right? You look at granularity that they give you in that file, and you're looking at taking all those inputs that you have on the left-hand side to be able to provide enriching the data to take into account each and every those variables. You're talking about electricity, you're talking about power usage, you're talking about local grid emission factors, right? In addition to that, you're also looking at water consumption, right? If you care about, in addition to carbon emission and energy, if you care about water, you're looking for that data also. And then it's not just like at one place, like you're looking at multiple locations to do that. So that basically multiplies your data requirements that you need to enrich your data with. Fast forward this 5 years, you had $1 billion spend, you're talking about 120 billion lines of code, right? It's with a B, which is not a easy effort. And to quantify that effort, if you look at, like I mentioned, Cloud Carbon Footprint is an open source standard that folks are utilizing or would be utilizing to enrich their data, right? They do have limitations, right? That's the reason why we are looking at this with GreenPixie to help us out here is the limitations. Some of the limitations are like the data is old, like from 2015 averages, and they said they'll be working on ensuring that that's more in real time. From other thing is that from the data granularity perspective, right? They're only, if you look at CCF, if you look at that tool for sustainability in your companies, it'll only give you a granularity at a instance level. So native cloud providers, AWS, Azure, GCP, right? They give you granularity at service level, some at instance level, right? But getting at instance type level granularity, like what type of virtual machine you're using in the cloud, CCF does not do that, right? You have to basically use your own efforts to get that data from the granularity. But on top of that, you also would need to look into, as far as, right. So on top of that, you also have to look into like what effort it will take from resources perspective, right? You are looking at least 10 to 15 resources. You're looking at amount of effort, at least 18 months to 2 years, right? So if your requirement is now or like in 6 months, it's not easy to get a resource in-house and get that information out and be able to enrich the data. And last but not the least, these are like your costs that you can quantify, right? There are costs that you cannot quantify, licenses. GHG requires licensing. For electricity maps that you're sourcing data from requires licensing. Regulations, right? You need to, if you will be audited, like Mastercard basically is going through regulatory body, you'll have to basically get your certifications done, right? So those things are something that you can't do in-house. Those are the costs that are hidden costs in your environment today that you have to take into account, right? So it's a traditional build versus buy that you have to think about, but you have to ensure that you take all factors into consideration. So taking all those factors into consideration, looking at our goals, like we basically looked at, okay, this is what we need to go for from a vendor perspective, which will give us it meets our requirements at Mastercard. So what do we do next with it, right? Like I mentioned to you, we wanted to use our existing tools to be able to enrich it. With GreenPixie, we were able to do that. We had a partnership with Apptio and GreenPixie together, We basically, as a Mastercard's cloud spend is driven by M&As. So we've got like 15 to 20 master pairs that we have to worry about. Taking any third-party vendor and ingesting data, any third-party vendor you take it, right? You have to basically go and ingest each and every individual master pairs to get the card file. Well, Aptio and Green Pixie helped us. They already had our card file. They already had our data. We says, okay, take this data, add additional dimensions to it, and enrich and give us the carbon footprint next to it, right? Now, the other piece of this is what do we do with that data, right? So our goal was, like in cost, we should be able to get some recommendations, actionable recommendations, right? So since our tool already was able to provide that, we were able to then get the carbon piece added next to it to be able to give us the same insights. And lastly, again, we already did the scoring part of it, right? So we want to ensure that the data is the right level of confidence, it meets all our granularity requirements, it meets our regional requirements, it meets our regulatory requirements, et cetera. So that's what we used to get our output that we are looking for during our MVP. But yes, that's great. So what next, right? Everybody gets something called Freddy dashboards, okay? So once you get, this is the dashboard that we are able to get, right? The goals that I mentioned again, we are able to get the dashboard. It looks pretty, looks nice, but the key part here is that the dashboards that we are getting, we are using Aptio, right? You don't have to use that tool. You can use any tool. So the left bottom, so first thing, the dashboard shows you granularity. It shows you by region. It shows you by instance type. It shows you where carbon could basically be, right sizing might not necessarily reduce your carbon. So you might save cost, but you might not reduce carbon. So the right bottom graph shows you the impacts of both cost and carbon, right, next to each other. But on the left-hand side, you see the granularity. It doesn't have to be in the tool that we are utilizing, right? You can take the data into your own tools, like you can use QuickSights, or you can use any other BI tool and put the data and show to your stakeholders what the data is. But the key thing is that you're able to get the data in time at the granularity you're looking for and be able to action it, right? The two graphs on the like middle and the top and the right bottom are the insights that are showing you that my cost and carbon might not be proportionally the same way. It can go either way, right? So what do you do with it? Coming back again full circle, like Mike mentioned, right? You have to have that particular synergy, single pane of glass view. So this is what is enabled or will be enabling us to do all the left-hand side here, that how do you want to align ourselves with single pane of glass, be able to do apples to apples. We will be able to provide that metrics that we're looking for, transparency that you're looking for, regulatory requirements they're looking for, and then of course, we are able to do all that in a single tool that we have currently. So, okay, that's great. But dashboards are not our goal, right? Our goal is how do we action that particular data? So this is where we are from sustainable, like two things that we look for, reporting and optimizing of what we have currently, right? But then capability of doing the forecasting and optimizing what we're going to get next, okay? So what you want to basically do is that based on our growth that we're looking for, we want to make sure that we remain cost efficient and sustainable moving forward. So the few of those things, insights that we're looking for from actionable perspective. So you already have the cost data. You already have the right size. So one thing we mentioned about right sizing. So you already have the cost data, right? It basically tells you that you can go from A type of instance to B type of instance, whatever that is, give you certain savings, right? But then you add your sustainability data to it. What that is giving you is before you don't have the data available, now you are able to get the data. You have the data, you can show to your stakeholders. And what we have is that from industry-specific perspective, what it shows is that with sustainability data, you are able to get more cost savings, at least like 4.7x. People will be more actioning the data. And there were independent surveys done that, like, cost is everybody's responsibility, right? So your goal would be sustainability is everybody's responsibility, but it seems as engineers are more like passionate about sustainability, so their reaction to doing this with both the data aligned together goes long way, giving you more efficiency across the whole ecosystem. Okay? What is the next action that you can do? Is to build greener and better products. So if you're aware of Green Software Foundation, they basically are working on impacts, like how can you code, where can you code, right? You've got region impact. So you deploy your software or build your software based on your regional information, right? You also look at your policies. So all that thing is built into your coding, your development itself. So with that mindset of sustainability, you can take the same data and be able to do some actions and build a greener software. So that's the second actionable actions that you can perform on the data. Key thing, right, is everybody looks for cost KPIs. This data will give us ability to do carbon KPIs in addition to the cost, right? You can look at carbon emissions per transaction or per user. Whatever your unit of measure is, you can get your carbon data based on that unit of measure also. Right? Cost and carbon, right, synonymous. Resource planning. So the third thing from that scenario is, again, this is a fake data currently. We are evaluating the vendors currently as far as how we want to do like region-specific stuff, right? So if you look at it, if you evaluate, if you have a data for both on-prem and cloud, again, apples to apples. With this data, we will be able to say, okay, this particular region is costing using X for cost. This is using X, Y for carbon, right? What alternates do I have for efficiency? And you can, even though you might not deploy in the region, at least you can get the data across all different regions, and you can determine where you want to go to, right? This is West, we are taking West 2 as an example here. You might not have to go there. You might say, carbon is not my requirement, cost is priority, or carbon is my priority, cost my priority, right? And you can at least, this enables you to be able to do decisions on workload planning. Okay, there's additional metrics that you have put in place in addition to cost to help you meet your goals. So in all, you're looking at, so these are the few actions we have said, right? But there are multiple things that come into play as you go forward with this. It will help you with workload planning, it will help you with forecasting, it will help you with your KPIs, right? Of course, costs in the play, cost plus carbon. And then the last thing is all the AI stuff that's coming into play, right? So if you take action now, you'll be up ahead of this game, right? You'll be able to work and determine how much of your GPUs you're requiring, where do you want to deploy your workloads. So the opportunities and capabilities are a lot that you can do with this data. Said that, I'll pass it on back to Mike.
All right. So I want to just go back a couple of slides just real quick. I wanted to really point this out because this is one of the scenarios that we want to do at Mastercard, knowing that we're going to start going into different regions. If you look at the analysis there, you got the current operating environment, and you look at that compared to US West. Great, we could save money and carbon. Perfect. It's a pretty simple decision. We could go there. What we could also do, if we wanted to, is go to EU West 2. It would cost us more money, but it would save in more carbon. And so why is that important? As we look, and we're planning for the future, we want to bring carbon and cost data, side by side right next to each other so that they're used together to make decisions. Sometimes costs might win, sometimes carbon might win. Hopefully, most of the time, both win, there. But when we align with executive ESG initiatives, we have corporate objectives that are tied to compensation and everything at Mastercard, and so everybody's responsible for ESG at Mastercard. We want to get to where we're setting targets, better, setting goals and targets, not just, the big ones that we report out, but internally. The granularity that Vic went through and showed there's stuff like, by region and stuff like that, which will help us in certain business decisions. But, getting down to that product level granularity, which was a requirement for us and aligned with what we're doing in TBM and everything, in Mastercard, is getting to that product level to hold product level accountability, getting to product level margins, product level decisions. Our products will run not only in on-prem and on cloud, but they'll run in the multiple different clouds, multiple different data centers, different types of data centers. We have different types of data centers that we have, and so it's gonna need to basically run everywhere, anywhere, at all times. Vic showed there where sustainability data can help implement, bring focus to cost data. Well, what was that 4.7 times, engineers are more interested in sustainability data? That's only gonna increase the amount of costs that come with that, the cost savings that come with that. And then we also want to bring this to new areas across Mastercard, and so new personas and trying to get new people interested, in it. Whether that could be, sourcing, finance, the product teams, the ones actually making that decisions. Everybody talks about like shifting left, so we want to really bring this so they can see the carbon as part of their decision-making process from the very start. And we really, at Mastercard, are really trying to lead by example. We've been doing sustainability for a long time. We're trying to do it, right in terms of the granularity and the data that we are going after. As we continue through, the 2020s and get into the 2030s, we're only going to see a bigger demand and more constraints, for this. And so, what we're doing at Mastercard, we really feel like we're kind of setting that foundation and that stage to do it. Sustainably and effectively for your organization. So with that, we will open it up to Q&A. Got to get the box. Yeah.
Down here, Ron.
So I know you posted that it was fake data, but where would you get data? Let's say you
Oh, you talked in the box. Oh, okay.
Take that, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm not a tech, I'm a software, not hardware. I know you posted that it's fake data up there, but where do you get real data? Let's say you move from one region to another. How do you measure that benefit or change?
I think that's what we're trying to get to here. Right now, we can't in the cloud. So when we're talking about cloud, the cloud providers, we can use what they provide us, but it's nowhere near the level of granularity that we need. And so really right now, we can't accurately do that.
Yeah, we are able to do the on-prem right now, but we are still working on the cloud part of it. So, yeah.
For your on-prem stuff, how did you collect that data? Was that another different third party, or how did you understand what your carbon was there?
So we do have a cloud ESG team at Mastercard. We do have a chief sustainability officer at Mastercard. So that team that runs the on-prem, all the ESG team at Mastercard, what they're doing is they're looking at different sources. Like they're also looking at like the vendor provided, like for hard, they do have emissions, they do show or give us the data from emissions for all the servers, the type of servers that we're utilizing, right? They go to, so there's the whole overall, the chief sustainability officer, they work with sourcing the data, and then they've set up emission factors in our company, right? So we use that data to be able to do that for on-prem. We are collecting all the information from our TBM practice. We get all the data for who's using what servers at a product or program level, and then we are able to match that. So as long as you can tie them together, we can tie the carbon with it also.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Next one. No, you're just coming here. Another question? Hold on, Jarek, you'll be next.
Do you publish a sort of a baseline standard for people to use to judge whether what they're doing is good or not? I mean, just like what is the average miles per gallon? We know in cars it's 30.
No, we haven't gotten to that point where we're giving that kind of guidance. We have our sustainability report that we do every year, but that's just on how we're doing, in that space. No, we haven't been giving any industry guidance on that or anything.
All right, second question, you do a lot with Green Pixie, which, seems pretty interesting in terms of the data. Were there other options besides, Green Pixie folks, I'm sorry, I don't want to. But
okay,
were there
yeah.
other options?
We evaluated the capabilities in the CSPs themselves, open source and CCF, and then a few other vendors. And Green Pixie would just hit everything that we needed in terms of a requirement from the granularity and the accuracy of the data.
The 4.7 times number that you gave earlier about engineers caring, is that from surveys that you've done, or you're actually seeing that people are making those decisions
So
based off the
it's not
data?
from our surveys, it's basically, we've looked at some surveys which they basically tell about that, right?
Gotcha.
We still have to, probably when we're here next year, we might be able to quantify that and say, okay, where do we fall in that spectrum?
Okay.
If we get exactly which survey that was listed
It's
here.
listed, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a climate action.
The climate action, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Jaco with Mastercard, I think we've met. Appreciate you guys doing this today. Not necessarily a question, but we're talking about benefits of this and our goals. I think one of the, FinOps and cloud is exciting for recruiting, but when you put sustainability into it and you go talk on college campuses and you're recruiting, the interest level in combining these two things is definitely probably number one on the list of people we talk to that are interns, new hires when we go to colleges. So maybe not helping us drive sustainability outcomes, but certainly from an organizational benefit, definitely seeing a lot of interest in this space and combining the two, or even our on-prem stuff. The three, as we call our convergence, has definitely done a lot for us in the recruiting, the retention, the college campus experience. So for those considering it. Sweet.
Thanks, Jared.
Nice, perfect. I've always wanted to speak in one of these, actually, so this is perfect. First of all, the work you guys are doing with Green Pixie and just in general, it is truly incredible. And you are ahead of the game since sustainability. AI is a big buzzword. Sustainability also is one of those words that people speak about it and they have goals for where they want to be at net zero. But sometimes they just say those goals. They don't really believe in them thoroughly. So the two questions I had, and one of them does go towards the criteria. You had mentioned that you had some set criteria that you had built and you were matching it with the companies that you were looking to work with, right? How did you set the criteria yourself internally by having, because a lot of companies don't give you the right data, right? So how were you able to build that criteria without having the right data at first?
So to start with, right, it's a FinOps thing, right? So we basically looked at, actually it's TBM and FinOps, to be corrected there. So we are looking at when we do our data, granularity that we're looking for, right? The key thing is that when we go to a product executive, when we go to the meetings with them, right, they say, I don't care what platform you're sitting at, right? From my perspective, my cost is my cost, right? Doesn't matter. Same thing with sustainability also. All I care about is for my product or program, this is my carbon footprint. I don't care underneath the thing where you are, right? So for us to be able to understand what that is, we have to make sure that we'll be able to give the granularity what stakeholders are looking for. So if you're able to get that on the TBM side, we want to make sure that we get that for the cloud side. And then we start looking into who can give us that information that you're looking for, right? The data, the goals that we're looking for, right? So we start with everything, even like in tools also, right? You start with your CSPs first.
Correct.
And then you determine, okay, what can you do with it? Then you look at what effort do I have to put into place to get the data? So can I use my existing tools? How can it be more beneficial to me, add the value to me to source the data itself? And the third thing is the confidence, right? Who can give me the right data?
Perfect. And then the second question I had was, and let me look at my notes. I know you spoke a lot about really integrating that culture of ESG internally in your company. How were you able to do that so just thoroughly and clearly? Building an internal culture, even in FinOps, can be tough to people to listen and believe in it themselves. So how did you guys do it?
Well, I won't say that we have successfully done it. We are trying to do that. And so with our on-prem model, we are rolling that out and putting it in front of people. There's a lot of interest in it. We're still working on some of the actions off of that. With competing priorities, budget challenges, something every company faces, right? Every engineering team, do more with less every year, et cetera. It has been difficult. And, starting FinOps, even, a little bit before that, it's been hard to kind of even get that across the, the company as a culture. So, what we're doing is we're finding those, friendly players, the ones that want to work, the ones that kind of have that passion, finding some small wins there, being able to communicate that out, and then you either use FOMO, right? Another person is like, oh, my peer has this data, I want that data now, or you call people out, you compare them, you say, oh, look how great this person's doing, why can't you do that? And you keep raising it up from there. So that's kind of how we're doing it. We're not all the way there yet.
And to add to that is, like everything like FinOps with sustainability, you need like a top-down, like executive buy-in for this, right? So we have been lucky, like our CTO is buying into that, our TBM team lately, Jaco is buying into that. So those at executive level, when you have buy-in, so like Mike said, we do have challenges, but at least there are some hurdles that can be overcome by good executive buy-in that we have got.
And I tell you, tie-in objectives to compensation helps too.
Right. Yep. That's huge.
Yeah. Being able to tell people when they ask, well, how much is this going to cost me? Nothing. What are you going to do with the money that I save? You get to do whatever you want with it. Whatever your finance team allows you to do with it. Them over there, go be mad at them. Finance. We're lucky to not be inside of our finance organization. We're in between technology and finance. So, yeah. Yep.
I have a question. So let's say you're back here again 12 months from now. You're back in breakout room B. At the current pace of progress and sustainability, what achievements, what accomplishments are you going to say, hey, last year we said this, and now we have this?
Yeah, I think being able to get to and show that single pane of glass view is probably the first goal, and then it's really the actions off of that. Right? You can only the data is great, and getting to that granularity is cool, and you could do some really cool stuff with the reporting and the tooling and stuff like that. But if we can't get the actions off of it, it really doesn't mean anything. And so, 12 months from now, I'd like to be able to say, we've taken this, forward, we've implemented fully, across, we've combined it, kind of with our TBM, so that convergence has really happened. And here's kind of how that has converged together, and we could show some things for that. But then also, kind of talk through what actions we had off of that, and then of course be a lot of lessons learned along the way.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of a little bit of a separate effort, but on the other side of things, we're trying to bring revenue into this model, as well too, so that we can get to true, margins, true product level margins, and holding people accountable for that. Total cost, when we combine the on-prem cloud data and stuff like that, really trying to get to that total technology cost, and then bring in product costs, other shared, organizational costs into it, revenue, and trying to get to a true, kind of consumption-based, technology cost, and then being able to combine that with revenue and everything like that to do margins and all of that.
Sounds like Jaco just gave you your KPIs.
Well, he's the driver of it, right? He's giving us a soft hint of what he wants from us.
There we go.
There you go.
Any last questions? All right, breakout room B. Give it a big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. Check out more FinOps X 2024 content on our YouTube channel on the 2024 playlist. Support our channel by liking, subscribing, clicking the notification bell, and by leaving comments and questions for our speakers. We appreciate your support.